USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show, and I am so happy to welcome back to the show Glow Girl Hollywood. She has written a brand new book, Hooray for Hollywood. It's out now wherever you find books, everywhere. Welcome back to Wrestling with Heart.
Stanley, thank you. I love being on your show, and I love that it's always a positive message with the people that you have on. So that always warms my heart. I'll always be back for that.
I appreciate that. So you had talked about many things in your book, talked about your career, how you got into business, traveling, and so many other stories. But something that was very interesting to me growing up, you were big into sports. You did a lot of swimming and did some roller skating and very different kinds of activities. What was it about being into that kind of atmosphere that was exciting for you that made you go, this is pretty cool?
Well, okay, different generation. So we weren't sitting here on these, okay? We weren't on the cell phone. So basically, you know, when you get out of school, your parents want you out of the house. They don't want you in the house. So swimming lessons, going to the pool. I think it was like 50 cents to go to this big giant pool that we would go to. We just walked down about 6 blocks maybe, and we'd go swimming. We'd go to the beach. So those are things that you did as a kid. You got outside and you did it. If that was just playing tag or rover or football, because we had lots of boys on my street, mowing people's lawns for money, you know what I mean? Riding our bicycles through the park and saying, oh, Mom, we didn't even have to say bye, we're leaving. We didn't tell them where we were going. We just took off, and it was very safe. And our parents, at least my parents, always instilled, if anyone talks to you, ignore them, don't talk back to them at all, run the other way, different direction, yell, scream. So, you know, we already had the base inside us, knowing even if we were, 10 years old, 12 years old, or hiking when we would go camping. My parents really, I'm very blessed really, because even though we're middle class, a family, at least we still got to do a Disneyland here and there, and we were always doing something fun as a family together. So I think when Glow came about, putting all of that, all of those skills into wrestling, it was kind of maybe a no-brainer that, yeah, well, if you can do a full somersault and a backward somersault, you're good to go. So, yeah.
Do you feel that having that background helped prepare you and made that transition a little easier? Because you had talked about before you were acting and doing these films and TV spots before Glow. I mean, do you feel that helped prepare you, having that, being into sports for so many years helped prepare you for the television show.
Absolutely. Like I said, we were outdoors all the time. It even helped more when you're playing sports against the opposite sex, because as you know, boys are stronger, faster, quicker. So yeah, it did help quite a bit in that. And my dad was my coach, and if you've ever had your father coach you in anything, you better give 110% because you're going to get yelled at if you make a mistake. So it did help quite a bit.
What did your parents think of you trying out for Glow? Were they
Oh,
excited?
scared. My mom, I like, Mom and Dad, why don't you drive up to Vegas and come and see me? She's like, no, I'd rather watch it on TV after I know that you're okay. So my mom was always worried. She always said, be careful. And that's something it's a running joke between my mother and I. Be careful, because every time lately that she has said, be careful, something goes wrong. Somebody hit me one time. I hit a pothole. I'm like, Mom, stop telling me to be careful when I leave. It's not good.
And,
So we laugh about it, and she doesn't anymore. She'll just go, I'll see you when I get back. This is when I go and visit them in California, which is once a month. And she never says, be careful. Sometimes I kid her, and I will, as I shut the door, I'm like, I'll be back. I'm going to the beach. And then I'll say, I know, be careful. And then I'll just run out the door.
yeah, I mean, you auditioned for the show. They're working you guys very, very hard. You're working under Mondo
Mhm.
Guerrero, who's from the legendary Guerrero
Yes,
family. What was he like to be
yes.
around?
He was strict. No laughing. Uh, but see, you need that. When you've got a bunch of women, and actually we were young ladies, no, we weren't teenagers, I apologize. We were 20, 21, 22-year old. And to me, I know that's an adult, but you're still kind of a kid, I think. When you're in your 20s, you want to giggle and laugh. And he did not want anybody giggling and laughing because he didn't want us to get hurt. He put one of the girls in I believe it was a sleeper hold, and she almost, as soon as everybody saw that, they were like, okay, this is for real. Don't laugh. And so he was great to work with. He taught us as much as he could for the few months that he was there.
Mm, yeah,
Would have liked him to be there longer, but he wasn't, Stanley. And so he left. We did the pilot, and then when we got picked up, we had a couple other women pro wrestlers, and then when they left, the girls started training the girls. So the training was a little bit different, and I say that in the book as well. For me, I already knew the basics. I need to go on to level 2, 3, 4. So for me, I just watched the WWF and said, okay, I'm going to learn that. I'm going to learn that. And I watched them in that. That's not great training, obviously, but kind of had to train myself if I wanted to advance more.
yeah, it's hard because when you're working under someone and then someone leaves, it's kind of hard to
Hmm.
find new people at times because transitions happen. And but yeah, I mean, studying tape and watching several of your favorites or whoever's on television, it does help a lot with
Hmm.
with getting those influences. And I know that in the 80s you had women like Wendy Richter and Velvet McIntyre
Yeah.
and all these
Right.
people that were there. And so anything you kind of took away just by watching and kind of implemented into your own style.
Right. Exactly. And now here's the thing. When I was watching WWF, there wasn't a lot of women. So the ladies that you were naming, besides Wendy, are independent. So where are you going to see that wrestling at? So I'm looking at the men, I'm going straight to the top and watching them doing a flying head scissor. That's it. I need to learn that. And man, I asked Tulsa, I go, will you do this move with me? And we practiced it and we practiced it, and we did it. You're fearless, especially when you're in your 20s. You're just like, yeah, we can do that. That's easy.
It's repetition. I mean, those drills, whenever I've talked to people on the show and about going to wrestling school, you have to really like discipline yourself to do these moves. It's working with
And
your
it's
partner.
eye contact. You don't have that eye contact. You've got to look at that other person in the eye so they look, you know what I mean? You just have that look so that they know this is happening now. And I could tell you so many times when we didn't have that. And if you got if you've got a singles match going and you two aren't on the same, same level or same connection, that's when you're going to have accidents. And there's a couple I name in this book about that. But it happens, you learn, and hopefully you don't. Uh, uh, it's a minor thing, you know what I mean? You just learn from your mistakes. But
Wa-
eye contact is so important.
Was there a particular match where you saw something and you were like in shock?
Oh my God, that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
the one match that I'll tell you one match that happened for myself. Um, so this is season 3, maybe season 4, and it's season 3. I'm wrestling a newer girl that played. Was it Little Feather? I can't. No, not Little Feather. It was another one. Anyway, she was running the ring so quickly and fast that when she ran up the turnbuckle, she was standing up on the third rope,
mhm.
and she went up so fast, and she had my hands up in the air. She jumped down, but Stanley, my legs were crossed. I didn't have a chance to turn, you know and have my legs planted the right way. So I'm twisted. Oh my God, when she jumped off, she didn't give me a chance to position myself. And man, I landed on my neck and I passed out. Now I only passed out for, I don't know, maybe a few seconds. When I kind of woke up, I'm looking around. I'm like, where am I? And then I looked up. It was Cheyenne Cher. That's it. And I looked up at Cheyenne Cher, and this is what happens when you don't have a lot of experience. She's screaming at me to get up, get up, get up. What she should, and I looked at her and I go, oh, we're in the middle of a match. What she could have done is just ran up, cheered and let me kind of get to my senses again. But once I was like, okay, we're in a ring, we're in a ring match. But I'm lucky that I didn't have any more damage just because it happens. So accidents happen. I'm very grateful to the people that did train me. I listened. I had no broken bones in Glow. I had no severe injuries, no knee injuries, back injuries. I went straight through 4 seasons without any injuries. Very
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah, you
Because we saw a
survived.
lot. Yes. Yeah.
And you
And we're talking about, I'm only 115 pounds. I've got 350-pound women, with girls who are 160, 150, picking me up and slamming me down, slamming me over the ring down below. Yeah. And that's kind of training. And that's what training does to you. You train all the time. Every day you're doing something and you have a few days off. So training is so important. So you know how to land, you know how to work around certain things that might come up that you're not, you know, least case scenarios. And we should have had more of that. Like if this happens, if that happens, have plan C. Especially for us who didn't get a lot of training. You know, if
yeah,
you look at today, you look at all the wrestlers today, they're training, 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 and they're doing it over and over and over, and they are precise. Yes, accidents do happen, but without the proper and a lot of training, you can only be as good as you can.
yeah. I mean, you were on Glow the entire series, the
Yeah.
entire run, 4
Yeah.
seasons plus the pilot.
4 seasons and a pilot. Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, you got to see a lot of people come and go during that time. Were you able to
That's
train some of the?
why that's why this book had to be written, and we'll get to that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, were you able to train some of the new wrestlers that came in during
no, I didn't train anybody because when the new wrestlers were coming in, especially season 3 and 4, they were training them, and for me to just sit there and do nothing, well, I went home. I went to California, and uh, after the live show on Saturday nights, I'd fly home, and then I come back on Wednesday, and then I go
Yeah.
to the meeting on Wednesday. So no, I kind of wanted a little more freedom. I didn't want to. And staying, living somewhere where you're not from, especially Vegas, hot,
Hmm.
there's not really a lot to do. There wasn't a lot to do there unless you want to gamble all your money away.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back and forth, it is tough, and it
Mhm.
takes a toll to commute that far. It's a
Yeah,
distance, but
it does because people don't know about travel. I travel all the time, probably twice, sometimes 3 times a month. And traveling, especially today, it's stressful.
yeah,
You've got all kinds of things happening, delays everywhere. But yes, it does take a toll on you.
yes. Well, let's talk.
And when you're not supposed to leave, like I did, Stanley, there were times when I'm like, oh, I got to get to California. There's going to be on Saturday night, there's going to be a party that I need to go to. So I'd sneak out. I sometimes didn't even ask. This is
Ooh.
before I had those times off. So it's like season 1 and 2, I'd leave. And I didn't even think about what if the flight's canceled? Didn't even think of that. Just thought about getting out of Vegas, going to Burbank, which is not far. It's 35 minutes. Okay.
Mhm.
And then flying back. I guess I would have had to rent a car real quick and jam, drive 4 hours to get there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I broke a lot of rules.
Well, let's talk about your new book. What made you decide to put pen to paper and write the memoir? I think it's a very incredible story that you were able to share and get out. And talk to me about how what made you decide to write the book.
Well, like we spoke about just a little while ago, being the person that did a pilot and then all 4 seasons, that was one of the reasons right there. I'm like, well, I could tell, and talk about things that happened during the time I was there because I'm there. If you're trying to write a book in season 3 and 4, sorry, you can only really, give your renditions of, season 3 and 4. But, working with Mountain Fiji, and working with Matilda the Hun and working with the ladies in the first and second season, Tina and Ashley, those by far, those are my favorite seasons, maybe just because we all were in it together, learning at the same time. But yeah, that would be my reason of being there. So I thought after the show was done, I started writing things right away. Thank God I did that. Because so I already knew that I wanted to do a book, so I studied. Now that would have been 1990. Well, here we are in 2025, and it's finally out. But not that it took that long, but when I got it in my head, okay, it's time to do this. And it took a long time. It really took about 10 years. And when you finally get it all out and you get it edited, you get the pictures and it was pretty simple. I pulled out photos, and I knew that I would talk about those things that way. When you're in here and you see those photos, you're like, okay, yeah. Somebody asked me a question I have to tell you right now. So
Mhm.
in part one, when I'm talking about growing up, my grandmother made a communion dress. We are Catholic Italian. So I talk about this dress and I asked my mom on Mother's Day, I go, Mom, whatever happened to my communion dress that grandma made? She goes, I still have it. And I forgot to go back into the closet to get it so I could take a photo of it. So I'm super excited to go back home when I go back in June and grab that and take a photo of it. And then I'll talk about that part in the book and then I'll post it somewhere and put the dress there. But
That's
yeah.
funny.
So, and now you have this. And I did almost 400 pages. Is that
Y-
crazy?
it's amazing. I mean, you have
It's
so many
easy to
stories.
read.
Yes. You have so many stories to tell. There's one which
Uh-huh.
I find very interesting. You almost went to the WWE in the late 90s. Tell me about that. How did that all come about? And
Yeah. Yeah. An agent friend of mine told me to go down. This is 1999, right in the beginning of 99. Well, I had broken my leg in 98. I think it was December, yeah, of 98. And he wanted me to go to the audition. So I was thinking in my head, there's no way I am still needing physical therapy. Yes, I can walk, but not very good. And the right leg was so atrophied. I broke my leg in three places. So there's 7 screws, 2 plates in the leg. So I decided to put on sweatpants just because I didn't want them to see how atrophied my leg was. When I got up in the ring and Jim Ross was down below with a couple other guys asking the questions, who's your trainer, Mondo Guerrero? They're like, oh, they're writing down their notes and asking me questions. So I went into the ring with one of their guys and I could not really land my feet exactly this way. I had one leg, this wouldn't bend back all the way. So it was, and I just told them the truth. I noticed that they were very, very interested. And I just said, you guys, I'm so sorry. At that point, I've been on the road for so long, I really, really wanted just to live my life, be a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old. I think I was in my 20s, late 20s. I just wanted to have a boyfriend and have a good time and go hang with my friends without having someone above me telling me, you can't do this, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Um, so even though I didn't get that gig, that's okay because I love the way that things flowed for me, having my own company, doing things that I wanted to do. If I really wanted to, Stanley, I'm sure that I could have taken another audition or gotten contact of somebody. And it was Rick Bassman. Rick Bassman is a gentleman who had his own school. I think he still has UPC is his company. I
UPW.
know there's a couple different
UPW.
yeah, UPW. Yeah. Do you know his name? Do you know Rick?
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of them. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's so funny. At WrestleCon, he was right next to me, and I didn't recognize him. He's like, "Oh my gosh, Jeannie, Hollywood!" And I told him, "I go, Rick, you're in this book." He goes, "I am." I said, "Yes, for the audition that you sent me on." So we talked about it.
Well, it's amazing, the legacy of Glow and the imprint that you left on the business years later. People still talk about it. There have been documentaries, your new book, and so many people come up to you and talk about these memories. I mean, how
Yeah,
does that make you feel? It's got to feel good, to have these people, come to you and tell you their story.
I love that. That's why going to these wrestling conventions and being asked to sign is so great. It is humbling to, for me, and I always give them always a time of day. Just 3 nights ago, I went to a concert and there's a guy that goes, "You're Hollywood." And I said, "I am." And the show's just getting ready to start. I came in a little late. Everybody's already sitting down. Show hasn't started. He goes, "Can you take photos?" I'm like, "Of course, get in here. Let's do photos." And I just posted those photos at the concert. So yes, when people come up and they recognize you, wow, that's just warms my heart,
It
especially
does.
if you remember, right? If you remember that person, that means you're a fan. You're definitely a fan. And then there was another guy in there that said the same thing. He goes, "Are you a wrestler?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yes, I knew you were. You're Hollywood." So you never know when someone's going to come up to you and tell you their stories. And it's so
No.
cool. Hmm
Yes, definitely is. I had the
WrestleCon was great. Just seeing everybody at WrestleCon, Sabu, who passed away just recently.
oh,
Oh,
such
that
a
broke my
loss.
heart. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I know. You're
60
here
years
one day
old.
and then I know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
such a tragic loss for the business. Definitely a
totally.
legend.
And what a nice person in here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Now, something that I found pretty interesting and fascinating that you were able to do recently was participate with Read Across America Day, which is a big thing in public schools in
Yeah.
America with reading to kids. Tell me about that experience.
What an honor first to be asked to do that. They're like, "Can you do this?" And I said, "Yes," immediately. And they hooked me up with a woman who runs that in the schools. And she gave me dates when to go to the school. This is a school in California. The options that I had were to pick the book that I wanted to read to them. Secondly, do I do a Zoom? And thirdly, can I be there in person? And at first, I thought I wasn't going to have time to do an in person because I had to work when I was in California. Um, but I just happened to be there. And the more I thought about it, my boyfriend also said, you know what? He goes, it's going to be more worth, uh, everybody if you can be there. I'm like, well, yeah. So I said, what time? They go, you can come anytime to our school in Los Angeles between 8 and 12. I said, why don't I get there somewhere before 11? And then I picked green eggs and ham. And it was awesome. These kids were so cute. And when I got back home, about a week later, there was a little package that had thank you cards from the kids. So I plan on doing this. If I can do this every year, thank you, Carlos Perez, if you're watching, because you don't know what you did for me. It is just so awesome to see these little kids. And then they lied to me. I go, are you guys 5 or 6? And they're like, yes, we're 6. And their teacher goes, they lied. They're 4 years old. They were so cute though. And we all, I didn't want to be like sitting on a chair, like I'm sitting here because the kids were all sitting down. And I thought, I'm going to sit down with you. It just felt more comfortable and to get everybody together, even the little shy ones. And I would go over and ask them their name, give them a hug. You got to know how it feels here. Your heart just expands this big to see smiles on their faces. So I'm going to come back and visit them again.
And it also gives you that feeling, that flashback of when you were that age, getting the chance to have a book read to you by
By
a
your teacher.
teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no better feeling in the world than having that innocence. We don't really think about that when we're older of how good you had it when you were that young.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, if you think you have a bad day, we don't. Look around the world. Look at those who need food and clothing and water and medicine. Now I see why, a lot of the stars are great humanitarians who give their time and their money. That's such a blessing.
Yes, it is. And the fact that you have a lot of passion for what you do with Read Across America and of course your
Yeah.
soaps, you're still
That's
doing
what I was
that.
doing this morning, Stanley. I was finishing up.
What's the latest? What you working on
So
currently?
today was the sandalwood ones. Um, and I can do those so quickly. I got them down. I've been doing soap since 2018. So I got that down. And then of course I had to, before I saw you, I had to do my Fruit Loops. And I mentioned that we were doing a podcast. So you'll see that on Instagram.
So and these soaps you're still working on special ones for causes? Are you still
Of
doing?
course. Yes, I try to. I usually do breast cancer. But if there's, I'm trying to think of the last one that, oh, animals. Yeah, the
Mm,
fires. Yeah.
yes.
All the
Yeah,
fires that were recent. Oh, yeah. Try to do something like that. And it's a good cause.
it definitely is. I mean, so many people lost their lives in
Oh my God, their
California,
lives, their homes,
their
their
homes.
animals, to see some of these little animals that are burned. Oh, it just broke your heart, man. I was just like, oh, Pasadena Humane Society was one. um Special to my heart. Oh, I can't imagine. You know what a burn feels like. Even if you have a little tiny burn, you're like, ow, everything you touch hurts. Can you imagine having it on your face and your hands and mm,
Horrifying to even think
it is
about it.
horrifying. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And we here, we have it so good. So, and when you do think you're having a bad day, you're not. You think about the others, the underprivileged people, animals, just all of that. So if we could all just do something small, just, that's good. It doesn't have
So
to be this amount of money. It could be a toy. It could, just something. I have a friend that has these little kittens. I said, my cats have so many toys. What's your address? I'm going to send you over some stuff for your kitties.
that's very
I can't help
precious.
it. And I'm
Yeah,
doing that. That'll go out tomorrow,
that's
but you do what you
adorable.
can. Yes,
Yes. Well,
that's just me.
yeah, I mean, everybody's
Thinking
got
of
their thing.
others before yourself.
Exactly. Got to pay it forward, even if
Yeah,
you're having a bad day, you can't go wrong. It's not a bad idea to think of someone that has it worse than you, that's going through a hard time in their life.
that's
So
right.
kudos to you for doing that
That's
and
right.
doing
That's
everything
why
you
in
do.
this book, the bullying, Stanley, bullying in this book, I advocate for that. I against that. Not a fan of bullying at all. You can
No,
just be nice and sweet. Because when you're a kid, sometimes you're getting bullied. I did, and we didn't call it bullying. I just thought kids were making fun of you, but it's the same thing. It's just bullying. And there's no need for it that you're better than anybody else. You're kids, you're growing up, you're learning as you go. And we all, like I said, we don't know. I don't have older brothers and sisters. You learn as you go. And hopefully
exactly.
kids will be nicer. That's all.
Yes, we all wish for a better world. We hope we can get into a place where we can be kind and respectful and genuine, showing that compassion and empathy. I mean, it just really goes a long way. It
It
really
surely
does.
does. And you know what? Sometimes when you're young, you don't know. And you are a brat. And maybe you didn't treat people nice, but then you figure it out. And you know what? That's good. Yay, you figured it out.
Exactly.
That's good. We all have time to figure it out, even now. All you have to say is, I apologize. I'm sorry. I was stupid when I was young, and I'm sorry if I hurt you. I mean, that goes so far.
It does.
Mhm.
Absolutely does. Well, before we wrap things up, if you had the option to come out of retirement, have that one final match, who would it be against? If you could think of anybody, it could be someone from the current women's scene today. It could be someone from the past who you uh, want to wrestle
That's,
or wanted to wrestle.
gosh, that's a hard one. I'd like to wrestle as many people as I can. I would start back in the 30s, 40s, go to the 50s. Um, Moolah would be too hard for me to wrestle. No. Penny Banner of the 50s. I think I would have loved to wrestle Penny Banner. And then, going current. I know she doesn't go as by Sasha Banks anymore, but what a fun match that would
Mercedes
be.
Monet, yeah.
Yeah, I like her character. She's sweet. And then if I got to do a mixed wrestling, I'd like to go against Andre the Giant. We both have the same birthdays, by the way.
Those are really good dream matches.
Yeah.
Um, Hollywood, this has been wonderful getting a chance to talk with you again. I want to say thank you for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and to my viewers and listeners that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find more about the book, how to
Sure.
purchase a copy, and anything you want to plug?
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you for having me on. If you're interested in the book, I have an Etsy site, Glow Merch. Etsy, you can get these on Amazon as well. But if you're on Etsy, I will autograph it to you. And if you just need to find me on social media at Instagram, it's official Glow Hollywood. If you're an X person, it's Glow Hollywood. And if you love Facebook, it's my name, but it's Basone Jeannie Marie. That's how you will find me, Basone Jeannie Marie. And you can always just Google me. You'll find us.
All right.
Thanks for having me, Stanley.
Absolutely. Thank you. And you're more than welcome to come back, by the way. Second time,
Absolutely. We'll do a
have you
part
back.
two. We'll do a part
Yeah,
two of this.
absolutely. All right. Take care.
All right. Bye, Stanley. Have a good
Bye-bye.
day.
You too.
Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.